Good evening. We are at Tribune Videos today. With me is Sandeep Dixit, our Foreign Affairs editor, and we will be discussing how India and China have been locked in a confrontation along the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh for the past 3 years. Today, June 15th, is exactly 3 years since the famous Galwan Clash took place. Galwan Clash broke the peace between the two countries, a kind of peace, a kind of manufactured peace which had come about with a series of agreements since the 1990s. 20 people of the Indian army died, and China agrees that 4 of its died, but Western researchers say around 30 of Chinese military people died. 3 years, things have changed a lot along the LAC. Sandeep, how do you see the changes from the diplomatic front along the LOC vis-a-vis China?
Ajay, the Galwan incident 3 years ago, as you mentioned, that has really stalemated the India-China diplomatic ties. And this can be very clearly seen from the fact that External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar 3 or 4 times has called India-China bilateral ties as abnormal. Now in diplomacy, abnormal is a word that is used rare, sparingly. So that obviously means that the ties have struck this rock of Galwan, because of which they are floundering today. And the approach of China so far has been to keep border issue aside and to talk on other things. But India for 3 years has been very clear that the border issue is paramount, and unless the border issue is not resolved between India and China, things cannot move forward. So a lot of initiatives that could have been there in the regional sphere, on the world sphere, in fact in bilateral relations, they have all been stalemated so far. But Ajay, I would like you to tell our viewers about the military position on the border. 3 years ago, the Galwan Clash took place, and since then India has beefed up its positions considerably. So we hear, and so you have written extensively on it. So can we hear from you what all measures India has taken and what it is doing now?
Yeah, we'll start going back to March 2020. The first few sparring clashes took place between the two armies along the LAC. As the viewers may be aware, the line of actual control is not demarcated on the ground. Eastern Ladakh has around 832 kilometers of LAC. Late March, mid-March 2020, sparring clashes started taking place. Everybody thought it is the usual rush after the winters, that there are summer patrols coming on both sides. They come to face, unfurl banners at each other, and the troops of both sides go back to their old positions. This used to be the system for the past 30 years. What happened in March was fisticuffs were exchanged, clashes took place, people got injured. Then again in April, the same thing happened twice or thrice. End of April again, a serious clash took place. I'm talking of April 2020. And in the around first, second week of May, India started matching China's build-up along the LAC, what technically we called a mirror deployment to match China's deployment. China had moved in troops, tanks, artillery guns, rocket forces, and also surveillance equipment along the LAC at that given point of time. India matched that. Now coming back to the specific of how Galwan happened, there had been, as I said, clashes during the month of May. June 6th, the first of the military commanders conference was held to kind of do a de-escalation. A kind of de-escalation protocol was agreed on June 6th, which was being followed at several points, and at Galwan, it was to be done on the June 14th. It had not been completed. Indian troops went there and asked the Chinese again to please implement the agreement agreed upon on the June 6th meeting between the military commanders along the LAC. Now, when we say military commanders, these are 3-star officers, lieutenant generals on both sides, very senior officers. They know what they're talking about, and they have the mandate of the government to talk about. So coming back to June 6th. On June 6th, this agreement had been done. The pullback had not happened on June 14th, and the night of June 14th and 15th, a clash took place between the troops of both sides. Thankfully, no bullets were fired then. There was just exchange of sticks, stones, and some crude weaponry was used. Both the countries, as our viewers know, are nuclear-armed neighbors. This build-up since June 15th has become a new normal along the LAC, Sandeep.
And Ajay, would you tell us about the road building activity that was on at LAC? For years we had been hearing that the access to LAC is very difficult because of the absence of roads or poor roads, and that is a very tough proposition, building roads. So would you tell us about roads and what kind of equipment was used and how that has helped India to beef up its strength at the border?
Two issues. One, let us first understand the terrain on the Indian side. The Ladakh plateau is jagged mountains. When you go up, there are very high passes, and on the Chinese side is a flat terrain. That is the way the geography is. Coming back to our side, when we land at Leh, most people have seen Leh. From Leh, when you go to the eastern Ladakh, there are 3 or 4 routes to go there. Most of them go over high passes and almost inhospitable terrain. There were roads to at least 2 of those points. The other of the points, the roads were just coming up before 2020. We had set up before 2020. Around 2016, we had sent up tank regiments up there. Now, Ladakh plateau seems mountainous. It's when I say plateau, it has got interspersed flats, which are very good for tank battles. When we go back to the deployments, as you talk about the road building picked up pace after 2020. A lot of equipment has been pushed in. Now we are making roads almost 9 months a year. Earlier, the working window because of the snow was rarely 6 months. Importantly, the tunnel at under Rohtang has been made. The other tunnel at Zojila, which is the other route, Srinagar Leh, is also being opened probably this year. And a very vital tunnel under the Shingola, 17,000 feet high Shingola, is coming up. It will be alternate route from Manali into Leh via one of the Zanskar valleys. So Sandeep, these roads are very vital when you talk about connectivity to Leh. Now comes to the eastern part. The DS-DBO road, which is the Darbuk-Shayok DBO road, 255 kilometers. It connects right from Leh right up to KK Pass, that is Karakoram Pass. That takes you to the subsector north in the Daulat Beg Oldi in Depsang, where these names are very common to viewers and listeners of our podcast at the moment. Also on the side of Chushul, where we face the Pangong So Lake, the north bank and the south bank. Today have very good roads. The north bank, Pangong So, had a very good road taking up to Thansing Thapa Post, Thansing Thapa, PVC of 1962 war. That road had come up around 2015. On the south bank also we are making new roads and also connecting from Chushul further down into Demchok. Demchok is the southeasternmost point of eastern Ladakh. And from I've taken you right from KK Pass, the northernmost part, to Demchok, the southeasternmost part. That is almost 832 kilometers now. Everything stands connected. New airfields have come up, more tanks have moved up, artillery guns have moved up, gun positions have been created. So all these things have happened, Sandeep.
That was very fascinating, Ajay. In fact, that was a fantastic broad brush picture you've given about Eastern Ladakh. And I'm sure many of our viewers would like to rewind and hear it again because it is so detailed and so nuanced that they will find it very, very useful. Now, there were 2 committees that were India-China committees that were discussing this border standoff. One was the working mechanism, which was an interministerial committee that was led by the MEA, and the other was the commanders meeting that would take place, that was led by the army. And the latest meeting was held some time back. And before that, of course, there were some disengagements. Would you give us an idea, Ajay, about how many points were there conflict and how many points there has been disengagement and how many areas this process is yet to be completed?
See, Sandeep, very good question. There are 3-step graded process which India speaks about. Disengagement from the spot. There were around 9 spots from where we have disengaged in the past 3 years. But disengagement, I mean the troops have moved back around 1 kilometers to 2 kilometers, agreed upon zones. These are loosely called the buffer zones. So the troops have moved back to probably 1 kilometer or 2 on each of the spots. Now the other 2 processes, which are very important, are called de-escalation and de-induction. That means the troops will go back to their positions pre-April 2020. This is one of the demands India has made. And then de-induct. Because both sides have ramped up around 40,000, 50,000 troops. Normally in these conditions, these areas had a sparse around 5,000 to 6,000 troops on both the sides. Today we are 10 times that, 10 times of tanks, 10 times of artillery guns, 10 times of rocket forces. Everything is 10 times of what it was pre-April 20. So these 3 Ds, which we call, one of the D, disengagement, has been completed in most of the spots other than in Depsang. Depsang, as our viewers would know, that it is a 972 square kilometer plateau in subsector north near Daulat Beg Oldi. Other spots which we are called PPs, which you often hear in the media. PPs, patrolling points. They are named by the numbers of the patrols they go out, and these patrols are numbered by the China study group. They are around 73 patrol points all along the LAC. Ladakh, they are around 18 or 19 patrolling points. Most of these points today have stands de-engaged, but critically the de-escalation part and the de-induction part is pending, Sandeep.
Yeah, and because some of this is pending, this has had an impact on bilateral India-China relations. And in fact, we have seen that at the UN Security Council, India has wanted to indict or name or have terrorists based in Pakistan named internationally and sanctioned internationally, and China has been blocking all of them, all of those. And similarly, cooperation in Afghanistan that could have taken off is stalled. Similarly, there's competition elsewhere. But Ajay, how do you see this prospect playing out? Do you think, or will there be a light at the end of the tunnel?
Sandeep, yes. We all know that this now is the new normal. These troops at the LAC. The deployment is not like the line of control with Pakistan, where it is eyeball to eyeball. It is a bit further away. But with both the countries being nuclear armed and having long range artillery, having long range missiles at their disposal, this deployment is dangerous, risky, and sadly is the new normal at the LAC. Now we have mirrored these deployments are actually now happening as we speak in Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim also. There is a summer posture with both the countries used to have before this 2020 incident, which was patrolling used to intensify. But in this case now, both the sides have stationed troops on a permanent basis all along the LAC, not just in Ladakh, north of Sikkim and also north of Arunachal Pradesh, and also in both the sectors which are normally very peaceful, that is north of Himachal Pradesh and north of Uttarakhand. Sandeep?
Yeah, so this stalemate continues 3 years after Galwan, but as Ajay has given you a detailed picture that India is no less in matching up to China's aggressive tactics, and it has stalled China in its tracks for now. And I suppose that the longer this confrontation continues, the more difficult it will be for China to repair ties with India. So it will be in China's interest, essentially, Ajay, don't you think, to really de-escalate and de-engage so that ties can progress, because they have seen that they cannot progress beyond a certain point now.
Yeah, true. They have to, because that's the way the things are at the moment. As our External Affairs Minister and the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh has also made very categorically clear in several occasions that China has to go back to April 2022 status. That is the only way forward, because these the tension of the LAC cannot be de-linked with other bilateral ties. This is the, as they say, the epitome of the bilateral ties. This has spoiled 30 years of hard work, diplomatic hard work, in arriving at a kind of a working relationship along the LAC, which is, again, I repeat, not demarcated. It stands spoils. All agreements have been annulled. All agreements have been violated by China. Probably the time has come for both sides to have a long think, probably even demarcate the LAC on ground and move forward. Sandeep?
Thank you so much, Ajay, for a fascinating discussion on 3 years of Galwan, when we lost 20 soldiers. But since then, the Indian Army has shown that it is second to none, and certainly it has shown that it is not second to China. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandeep.